So again, thanks for coming, because after the winter we had, there's a lot of other things you could be doing on a Friday night, and you chose to be here. So that's an honor for me, so thank you. I'm guessing that if you're here tonight, you're an outdoors person. How many bird watchers do we have in here? All right, quite a few. How many hikers, backpackers? Canoers, kayakers? Hunters? Fishermen? Anything else I didn't mention? What? What? Horseback riding. What else?
Mushroom honey.
What's that? Mushroom hunting. Oh yeah, I'll never forget that. This is the time of year for mushrooms. Anything else? You're a runner. All right, very good. During my lifetime, except for being a serious runner, I've probably done all those things. And what I have found is that sooner or later, whether it be me or you want to take a photo of that activity. The natural world, God's creation is just so beautiful, intricate, complex, that sooner or later you just want to grab a photo of it and show it to somebody else. And that's pretty much what I do as a wildlife photographer, as an outdoors writer. I will take a photo, I'll put a story with it, and you will see that in a magazine or see it in a book. I'm going to help you tonight better do those things. And what I want to do is make this very, very practical so that when you leave here, tomorrow morning, when you're doing your activities here at Mohican Wildlife Weekend or wherever you're going to be, take your camera with you. And if you just employ just a few of these tips I'm going to show you tonight, your photos are going to improve quickly, automatically. And do we have any photographers in here? How many of you would say you're a photographer? All right. Do we have any professional photographers in here? That's good, because I can lie and... All right, very good. Now again, I want to make this very practical. I'm not going to talk a lot about equipment tonight, photo equipment, because I found that if I do that, it gets real boring real quick. But I want to just start with the basics, and I want to tell you have pretty much 3 choices as far as cameras today. And the first one probably everybody has with them, one of these things right here, right?
Phone.
And you can see I'm a dinosaur because I have a flip phone, I don't have a smartphone. My wife carries a smartphone, and where is she? She's in the back, she's in the purple, that's Jan. In 3 days, that lady and I will have been married for 41 years. Don't applaud, you had nothing to do with it. We've been married to each other for 41 years. But when we travel, we take her smartphone, and it helps out quite a bit. Now, as you can imagine, this isn't really the best piece of equipment for outdoor and wildlife photography, but you always have it with you. So if Bigfoot shows up or the space aliens show up, man, you got them right here. Now, people think you're crazy, but you can say, I got it right there. The next step is in this bag right here. And this is what's known as, and again, this is just kind of a generic term for this type of camera. This is what's called a point and shoot camera, okay? Most of it is automatic. It takes very good photos, and there are quite a few advantages to this. Number one is cost. For a couple $100, you can be in the ballgame. You can be a photographer. It's very light. You put it in a pocket. You put it in a backpack. Ladies, you can carry it in your purse, all right? The downside is you can't get real super creative with this because most of them do not accept interchangeable lenses. But this would be a good choice if you're just getting started in photography. If you want the best photos that you can come up with, which I do, is you might want to step up to something like this called a DSLR, a digital single lens reflex camera. Couple advantages, couple disadvantages. Again, number one, excellent photo quality, okay? Number two, you can be very creative with it. You can either put it on automatic or you can override with the manual settings, be very creative. 2 downsides. It's heavy, all right, a lot of weight there. It's expensive. It's expensive. And everybody's shaking their heads. Yeah, we probably looked at these, all right? But again, I wanted to show you the 3 options you have at this point. The DSLR, or the point and shoot, or if you're okay with your cell phone, that's fine, all right? So, at this point, any questions before we get into the slideshow? All right, very good. They cut the lights down here, and we're going to learn a little bit about photography tonight. If you have to move around to see some of that, go right ahead. If I stand right here, am I out of everyone's way? All right, good. Now, these cameras I just mentioned are really marvels of technology. And what they will do, if you put them on automatic, they will focus for you, they will set the exposure for you, they'll even add a little bit of flash if you want some flash in your photo. There's still one thing that modern cameras can't do. They cannot compose a photograph. They do not know what you want to take a photo of. This time of year could be a strutting turkey gobbler out in the woods, it could be a beautiful spring wildflower. If you're not careful, it could be the tops of your boots. If you have it pointed down, you hit your shutter release button, and I've got a lot of those types of photos. All right. Now, what I want to talk about tonight and spend most of my time on is how to compose an outdoor or wildlife photograph. Because again, that's where the human element comes in. All right. These cameras don't know how to do that, but you will after you leave here tonight. And if I can give you just one tip for better outdoor and wildlife photography, it would be, not that, would be that, fill the frame. Now what I mean by that is this, when you're looking through that viewfinder on the camera, I want you to imagine that you're looking through a window frame or a picture frame. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the subject, the main subject, in this case a bird, but instead of showing me a bird that's that size, show me a bird that's that size, okay? Fill up that frame. Now, this is a snowy sandpiper that my wife and I happened to come across on a beach along the Gulf Coast. It's called Bon Secours National Wildlife Refuge. We're walking along the beach, and all of a sudden this bird starts to twitter away from us, and she's dragging a wing. And most people are going to think, oh, the poor birdie. You know? Well, you folks know the poor birdie's trying to tell you something. It's trying to lure you away from her nest. Knowing that, we just stopped because we couldn't see the nest. We didn't want to walk on it or step on the eggs. We just stopped, and she ran off about 30 feet, and she gradually worked her way back. I took the camera, laid down on my belly. My wife backed up, and she walked right up to her nest and just posed for me right there. Now notice she's still got her wing flipped out, and she's trying to say, you know, come away from me here. I stayed right there, but the fact that she's got her wing out makes that a horizontal shot. Now she pulled her wing in, now it becomes a vertical shot, okay? Don't be afraid to turn your camera on its side. Horizontally, vertically, if you don't know which, try one of each and see which one you like better. All right? Again, I'm going to try and keep this very, very basic. Most photographs are going to have one main subject. This one has two, and that's for a reason. One of the subjects is this red lighthouse right here. The other subject are these two fishermen down here in this inflatable. What I want to talk about is something called the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds. Photographers know about the rule of thirds. Artists know about the rule of thirds. And here's a real easy way to explain it. Here's the same photo with a tic-tac-toe grid over the top. You have two lines going vertically, two lines going horizontally, and what that means is you have 4 places where those lines intersect. One there, one there, one there, and one there. If you can put your main subject where it's touching one of those intersecting points, that's going to be a more pleasing photograph. Don't ask me why, I don't know why it works, it just does. And if you look at this photograph right here, the red lighthouse is touching right there, the fisherman and the inflatable are touching right there, they balance each other. And if you can't remember that, if you have a single subject, whether it's horizontal or vertical, just set it off to the side one way or another, or up and down a little bit. It's going to be a more pleasing photograph. Take a look at this photo. Obviously I didn't take that one because I'm holding the fish. This happens to be a muskie that I caught by accident at Lake Chautauqua in western New York State. And a buddy and I were actually fishing for panfish, bluegills, you know, crappies, things like that. And there's a lot of muskies in the lake. And I hooked this thing and the fight was on. Probably lasted about 10 minutes. I knew I had a muskie right away because there's a lot of muskies in the lake. Believe it or not, this is a small one. There's some big fish in there. So when I got the fish up, I handed my buddy this camera and I said, take my picture. And I always cringe when I do that. I never know what I'm going to get back. But I told him it's probably going to be a vertical format, so turn the camera on its side and take a couple shots. If I had to grade this photo, I'd probably give it a C. And there's a couple things there that bother me. Somebody tell me one of them. What don't you like about that photo?
It's crooked.
What's that? It's crooked, okay. I want you to look past me and look past the fish at the horizon there, the water. Yep. All the water's running out of the lake. Not good. If you're shooting around water, whether it's Pleasant Hill here or tomorrow down at Clear Fork, that horizon needs to be level, okay? If it's running, if it's on its side, it does not look good. What else bothers you about that picture? The fish is too small? I know. What did someone say about cropping? Yes? Okay, look at the top. See all this gray sky up above? Not good. Gray skies are a killer in photographs. What I would do is, if I were composing this photo, I would have cropped it right above my head right there. And you can still do that in your photo editing shop. Just a photo editing program. You just go in there and you can even tilt that up. And I'm not going to show you the after shot, but I was able to save this by tilting that photo up, making the horizon level, and cropping all that out of there. So blue sky is good, gray sky is bad. Learn to look past your main subject. The funniest type of photo I ever saw of this type, of not looking past your subject, was at a sportsman's club. And one man was handing another man an award, and they were standing close to the wall. And when somebody took the photo, the guy taking the photo didn't look past the two men, and one of the guys was perfectly aligned in a set of deer antlers. It's hilarious, just hilarious. So learn to look past your subject. Shoot the action. All right, a lot of people put their cameras away for some reason when the action comes out, especially with water around. This is a shot I took down on the New River in West Virginia on a rafting trip. How many have been to West Virginia on the New? Anybody been rafting and you survived? Okay, we survived. That's pretty serious whitewater down there, isn't it? And let me show you what some of that whitewater looks like. I was in another raft when I took this photo. This next photo, I went downstream, I got out of the raft and shot photos of the rafts coming through. Now, as far as shooting the action, I think this pretty well tells it. I used a fast shutter speed to stop all this water. You can see the bucket going over here. Did I fill up the frame on that one?
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty proud of that one because that was a national award winner right there. I'm a member of a group called the Outdoor Writers Association of America, which also includes photographers. And every year we have a photo contest. This not only won a photo contest, but then they throw all of them together, and this was the president's choice for the best that year. So I was pretty proud of that. Now, a few miles on further down the New River, you come to the New River Bridge in West Virginia. This is a 4-lane bridge up here, 4-lane road, I should say. And it's 876 feet from the top all the way to the bottom. And once a year, on the third Saturday of October every year, the state of West Virginia Highway Department closes down this bridge, and they allow parachutists, base jumpers, to come in and jump off that bridge. It's called Bridge Day. 450 base jumpers come in and about 100,000 spectators, and I said, I got to go down and do a story on that. So my wife and I went down there a few years ago. We got a press pass. We're able to get right up to the edge of the bridge where these people jump off, and these folks are getting ready to go. And if I was going to jump off a bridge 876 feet with a parachute, I'd be in that little building right there. And I would not be coming out. They'd be knocking saying, Mr. Gross, it's your turn to jump. I'll be right out. I'll be right. You said that an hour ago. You know, get out of here. Pretty interesting. These folks would kind of belly up to the edge of the bridge. They actually had like a plank out there, like walking the plank. These folks would get out on, and they just launch themselves. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And everything is screaming at my being, don't do this, don't do this, don't do it. They just walk out and let themselves go. And these folks were telling us that when you jump out of an airplane, you're going approximately 100 miles an hour, so you can steer yourself very quickly. In this particular jump, you have to fall 3 to 4 seconds, get enough speed before you can steer. So if they start going end over end or head over heels, they don't have much time to recover. If you don't pull that chute, you got 8 seconds from the time you jump to the time you hit the bottom. Believe it or not, they've had some chutes that have not opened down there, so in about a 30-35 year period, they've had several fatalities. The day we were there, we had somebody break an ankle. I mean, this is serious, serious stuff. To get that shot, I just held the camera still, let him jump right through it, held down the shutter, and just clunk, 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 and he went right through it. And that was such a good shot that it became the cover of Country Living magazine about a year later. This magazine is put out by the Ohio Rural Electric Cooperatives. Anybody in here get Country Living? Quite a few. Okay, well, I'm their outdoors editor. So what that means is I have a monthly outdoors column in there. And if you don't get the magazine, you would like to, I brought enough copies tonight where there's one per family back on the book table back there. So please pick one up later. If you'd like to subscribe, you're more than happy to do that. They're $1 an issue or $12 a year, so pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Take a look at this guy.
You'll have to go.
Would you be that comfortable if you had just jumped off a bridge? I would not. Now, in order to get this and make it look like there was some movement here, notice those trees are blurred. In the first photo, I just held the camera steady and let the jumper jump through the lens. Here I'm actually following him down. I'm holding the shutter release down, chunk, 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 like that. Okay, it's called panning. And you see that he's a little bit blurred, but the trees are really blurred. So it gives you an idea that he's falling right there. And this is what they look like when they're standing at the top of the bridge. This is the New River down here. This is where they were supposed to land. See that little white circle right there? And not only is that a real small circle, this is all cement right here. And a lot of people said, you know what, I am not landing there. I'm landing in the river, which made for some great photos, just some great photos. And take a look at this lady. She's wearing a pink pig suit. A lot of people jumped in costume. I thought that was pretty funny. And again, with her, I just kept the shutter going, and she goes in like that. All right. Now, this current down through here is really ripping. It's going about 8 to 10 miles an hour. That's quite a current. So these rescue boats had to get there very quickly because these folks landing in the river, if that parachute gets pulled down, they're in a world of trouble. So they had to get them out very, very quickly.
Nice.
This guy, I called him Kilt Man. Now, Kilt Man was not from Scotland. Kilt Man was from Florida. But again, some of these people jumped in costume. And what you can't see is there are two National Park Rangers in full uniform right here talking to him. And you can see the little smirk right there. He is smirking because when he jumped, guess what happens to a kilt? And Kilt Man was not wearing any underwear. Of course. He was pretty proud of his physique, and it kind of upset the park rangers, so I don't know if he got arrested or not, but I thought, I got to shoot that photo to tell the story. And Kilt Man was pretty funny. How about using color? All right, using color in your photographs. I was going to go fishing with this gentleman right here, a friend of mine by the name of Bob. We're going to be on the Kokosing River up in Knox County. I said, Bob, wear a red shirt, and if you have it, wear a white hat. He said, I will. I knew this fishing hole was there. We were in a canoe. We came down to that hole. We beached the canoe. I got down to the bottom here, put him right here, had him make a few casts out here, and that really helps that photo tremendously. So use some color. Take a look at that one. This was a shot at an Indian powwow down in Loudonville, not too far from here. They do this twice a year, and the color's good. Notice I kept the sky out because it's a gray sky, so I cropped it right here. And notice this guy's face right here. Remember we talked about the rule of thirds? His face is probably somewhere around that upper left-hand intersection mark. So when you see that photo, you see a lot of color. But then your eye goes right there, and then it just starts to wander around, and then your eye will come back to him. So that's a couple things that made that photo work. Some more color. This is in Montana, Glacier National Park. I was shooting this photo right here. These people weren't even in it. I heard them pull up in a car behind. I heard the door shut. They set up a camera on a tripod. They walked right out in front of me and they posed. And I thought, well, shoot, I'll shoot your picture. And they were doing exactly what I was doing. These are professional photographers. Notice they dressed in red, but notice how good they were. Not only did they have hiking sticks, She's got her heel lifted up. He's got his heel lifted up like they're walking. They're not walking. They're posing there. And I just shot their photo, and they jumped back in the car. They were gone. I said, thank you very much. Color, once again. And a little bit of framing here, too. Notice how these dead lodgepole pines here help frame it. A little bit of pine up on top. Beautiful, beautiful place. This is a starfish in one of the tide pools of Olympic National Park. Not only are we talking about color here, but I like diagonals in a photo quite a bit. And notice the diagonal right here. This is what the photo looks like now. This is what it looked like when I originally took it. This was taken on slide film, just about unusable. 1 or 2 clicks in a photo editing program, and you have the usable slide. Now, what I want you to do here is we're going to talk about consider the light. This is a gentleman who, a few years ago, was head of the Ohio Falconry Association. And falconry is hunting with hawks, basically. He has a Harris hawk right there. This is not a bird that's indigenous to Ohio. It's a western bird. I guess they make great falconry birds. And I called him and he said, I would like to come down and do a story for Country Living magazine on falconry. He said, sure, come on down. He had a farm down by Xenia. So when I arrive, he starts talking this down, saying, well, you know, don't expect the bird to make a kill today, because sometimes we go out 2 and 3 times and they make a swoop at an animal like a rabbit and they don't really catch one. And I said, that's fine, I just want to do the story and get a few photos. Well, wouldn't you know it, we walked into this field, I kicked a brush pile, this rabbit runs out, the hawk makes a swoop, and he was on the rabbit in 10 minutes. And this guy was all smiles, all right? Now, I wanted to make sure I got that shot, called the money shot, so I made sure that the light was at my back, falling right on him, and this is front lighting, okay? And what we're going to do now is we're going to move around the subject, and we're going to talk about side lighting. When the bird was on the rabbit, he was covering up his prey, like birds of prey normally do, so it protects it so other animals can't see it and so forth. But the light now is coming from this area over here. It's coming from this direction down this way. So that is side lighting. It gives you a little bit different perspective. And here's another side light shot. This was a salmon trip I went on in Lake Michigan. And just something about equipment here and side lighting. The camera, or the lens I use most of the time, is not a big lens like this one right here. This is primarily what I use for my wildlife stuff. 90% of the time, this is the lens I use. 17 to 135. When it was racked all the way in, I was able to take that shot right there. Racked all the way out, just a couple seconds later, turn the camera on the side, and you've got that shot right there. Okay, same lens, a couple seconds apart, and you've got 2 totally different shots. But again, that is side lighting, all right? And then backlighting. Now the subject is obviously in front of us, but the light is all the way around on the other side of the subject. And notice what it does to hair, to sweaters, things like that. Notice the halo it gives this couple in front of us, or this young family. By the way, this was in Muir Woods in California, and these are coastal redwoods here. Some of these trees are 200 feet tall. I mean, it was just spectacular. And I'm going to show you another photo of those in just a minute. Prairie dog. This was a prairie dog I was shooting photos of in South Dakota. Okay shot, all right, but the sun was going down behind him, so we had backlighting. There were clouds there. There happened to be a cloud in front of the sun on that shot. A couple minutes later, the cloud goes away, and I got that shot. Now notice, here's the backlit again. Notice how it pops out his whiskers, his fur, all right? So the first shot was okay. This shot's a little bit better. And again, we're talking about considering the light. Ice storm. Ice is tough to shoot and make it look like ice. Most of the time in Ohio, we get an ice storm and we get a lot of gray skies. This ice storm happened a few years ago. It was within about a mile of my house. And I decided I want to shoot this, but I knew I had to wait for a sunny day. And I knew that once the sun came out, the ice wouldn't last long. So when that sun came out, I got in my truck, I ran around there, put the sun in the background, and shot into it. and this gives you an idea that it's all covered with ice. Didn't last long. About an hour later, this ice was gone. So keep that in mind if you're trying to shoot ice pictures. Silhouettes. Silhouettes are pretty cool in that they give a real dramatic effect. And I don't know if you realize it, but silhouettes can be taken any time of the day. Most people think, well, it has to be early in the day or it has to be late in the day. Let me show you how it's done. This is in Custer State Park in South Dakota. This state park is so large, all of our state parks can fit into this one state park. My wife and I are driving through the park in the middle of the afternoon. We came around a bend, and here are these rock climbers up here. And I thought, you know what, I want a shot of that. This is a gray day, so there's no real bright sun. Here's how you do this to take a silhouette. You would take a camera like this, DSLR, and I'm going to point the camera right there, and I'm going to take an exposure reading, and there's a button on here that will let me lock that exposure reading in. So it's like I'm just going to take a picture of that part of the sky, and that's the lightest part of that picture, all right? I'm going to lock that exposure in. Then I'm going to recompose the photo, so now I've got all this in. Go ahead and take the photo. Everything in the foreground turns black. Everything back here stays light, and you've got a silhouette in the middle of the afternoon, all right? You can do the same thing with your photo editing program, but if you get in your camera to start, it makes it a lot easier. And of course, I waited for this guy to kind of span that crack right there, and it made it more dramatic yet. So silhouettes. Let me show you another one. This is a fisherman down on the Gulf Coast. An okay shot. Again, I'd probably give this one a C. He's got the shirt thing going on here. He's got the hood thing going on there. What I did is I turned 180 degrees. I just walked around on the other side of him, got the sun to his front, and see what that did. All I did was I framed it. I framed him between his surf rods there, and now the shirt goes away, the hood goes away, and between those two photos, which one do you like better? I obviously like that one. Here's another one. Salmon fisherman, again in Michigan. My son and I were going salmon fishing one day. We were in my boat, we were driving by, and this fella hooks a salmon. And I told my son, take the wheel, I'm going to get the camera, and I'm going to shoot a couple shots. I waited until this gentleman had netted the salmon, and he started to lift it over. I shot probably 3 or 4 shots, and that's the best one. You can see the water sprinkling off. Remember I talked about diagonals? See the diagonal of the line right here? See the diagonal of the canoe right there? All helpful. And the sun is right out here coming back toward the subject. All right? Now to do all this, I take lots of photos, guys. Lots of photos. And the nice thing about digital photography is if you don't like it or if you didn't get it, you just delete it. I can remember back when I was shooting film, and most of the time I was shooting slides, every time I clicked that shutter, it was 25, 35, 40 cents. The price just kept going up. And I didn't experiment it much because I knew the price was, relatively expensive. Today, you can experiment as much as you want. If you didn't get it, you didn't get it. Big deal. But take lots of photos, okay? This happens to be an alligator fight in the Corkscrew Swamp in Florida. Let me tell you the story behind this one. It was a drought year. My wife and I were down there walking the boardwalk trails, and this female alligator was about 8 feet long. She was guarding a pond about the size of this room, and in it were her little baby alligators that were about 12 to 18 inches long. There was probably 40 or 50 of them in there. She's guarding them. This critter, which is about a 3 or 4 footer, came into the pond. She immediately attacked. And I probably shot, this was back when I was shooting film again, I probably shot 3 or 4 rolls of 36 exposure to get that shot right there. The downside of this, or the sad part, is that while she's fighting this guy right here, 3 or 4 others this side of this size came in the other side of the pond and just started both of those babies down, just like candy.
Oh yeah.
And of course, my wife and I, our eyes are about this big, seeing this go on. And about that time, one of the naturalists walks by. And we said, does this happen very often? And she said, well, I've worked here 6 or 8 years. I have never seen this before. So being in the right place at the right time, if that happens, take lots of photos, all right? Camera's perspective. Most of the time, when we shoot a photo, we're standing here, we're shooting it at eye level. And And most of the time that's good, but take the time to shoot some photos up above your eye level, other photos down below your eye level. Notice this raccoon. It was in a tree in our front yard, a young raccoon. I'm shooting up at him, and what I'm doing on wildlife is you focus on the face and you focus on the eyes. Notice the head is in focus, the rest of the critter is out of focus. So again, focus on the eyes when you're talking about wildlife. Here's that shot from Muir Woods in California. I wanted to show the size of these redwood trees. Again, some of these are 200 feet high. I actually laid down in the trail and just shot straight up. That's the only way I could figure out how to get there. But it gives you some perspective of the size of those trees, coastal redwoods. Now, as far as wildlife, shoot tame wild critters. What do I mean by that? Let me tell you a story. This particular wild turkey gobbler was gobbling down in front of my house. My wife and I live over by the Fredericktown area. This critter was gobbling in front of our house one spring morning, and I said, I want to go get that critter's photo. So I put on all my turkey hunting stuff, all my camouflage, got my turkey calls, a head net, and I'm sneaking around, and he's gobbling, and I can't quite get to him. It took me 2 hours to get this shot right there. It's a good shot, but it took me 2 hours to get it. It took me 2 minutes to get that shot because we're now in Great Smoky Mountain National Park. These birds down there and other types of wildlife have not been hunted for generations. They are not afraid of people. I'm sitting in my van right beside these critters on the road. And Jan and I are there early in the morning, and these birds are walking past us, just basically ignoring us, just doing what turkeys do. And I see a car coming behind us. And I'm thinking, oh no, I need to shoot real quick because it's going to scare them. This car comes by us probably 30, 40 miles an hour. Just, phew. Turkeys didn't care. It just stayed right there. And it shows you just how tame these critters can become. A little farther down the road, in Great Smoky Mountain National Park, there's a place called Cades Cove. Anybody ever been to Cades Cove? A few of you. It's an 11-mile loop drive. It's packed with wildlife. White-tailed deer, wild turkeys, black bears, coyotes. And again, these are all wild critters. You don't want to approach them, but this buck was standing here, and me and 5 other photographers were standing 30 feet away right here. And he did not care we were there. What he cared about was over here, there's another buck, and he's thinking, you know what, I may have to go kick his butt. He just has that look right there. This is in the fall of the year, and obviously he still has antlers. And he's thinking about maybe doing battle with that other critter. This is a snoozing bobcat. I'm such a great outdoorsman, I can actually sneak up on sleeping bobcat. I'm glad you laughed. This is in a zoo in West Virginia that has native wildlife. I used a longer lens. I cropped out everything that looked like a cage, and now you've got a sleeping bobcat photo. And I've been able to sell that one several times. All right? So wildlife photos are where you find them, and once you find them, you have to know how to take advantage. Here's a coyote photo. This was taken in Olympic National Park in Washington State. My wife and I are there, and we're talking to a naturalist, and we're up in the high country, and all of a sudden this coyote starts walking down the trail towards us. I don't know whether it's rabbit, I don't know whether to run or defend my wife or whatever, and the naturalist says, oh yeah, that's Charlie. Charlie's here every day at 2 o'clock. So Charlie walks down the trail, gets within about 30 yards of us, walks out around us, gets back on the trail, and goes past us. Of course, I'm shooting photos of Charlie the whole time. Now, my point is, it took me, 2 or 3 minutes to get this shot right here. How long would it take you in Ohio to get a shot of a wild coyote? Long, long time, all right? So if you can shoot in parks, if you can shoot in wildlife refuges where these critters are accustomed to seeing people, it's very, very helpful. Take a look at that one. Shot this one at Mount Rushmore National Monument. I am standing right here on the edge of a sidewalk. Hundreds of people, screaming little kids, the whole deal are going by me, going to see the monument, walking back to their cars. This particular mountain goat was just wandering around right here, right beside the sidewalk. She walked out behind these wildflowers, squatted to pee, and I took her photo. So again, right place at the right time, and take advantage of what kind of falls in your lap. I put this one in there to show close-ups, what's called micro or macro photography. I don't do a lot of it. I only have one close-up lens. It's only about a 60 millimeter, a real short little guy. But again, I don't want a lot of weight, okay, in my photography. And if I go up in size, like to 100 millimeters, then you've really jacked up the price. So this is kind of a type of photography in itself. I don't do a lot of it, but I have done some insects like this, all right? So that's called macro or micro. It does take special lenses. And carry your camera with you. I don't do this nearly enough, but you never know when something like this is going to happen. Fortunately, I had my camera along on a fishing trip, walked up the bank, and this garter snake is kind of hanging right out here in space. Just lined him up, set him off to the side here, and took the shot. Now, here's one time I did not have my camera. Chip's wall cloud, okay? Do you see a cloud there? No, I did not have my camera. Thankfully, my wife had her little point and shoot with her, and she saved the day because this is Jan's wall cloud. Wow. Take a look at that thing. It looks like a mushroom, I mean a huge, huge mushroom, and it was coming across Lake Michigan. Remember that red lighthouse I showed you earlier? That's it right there. And this thing was coming across the lake, and we thought it was the end of the world, man. It looked bad. About 10 minutes after she shot this, we got in our van, and this thing hit with wind and lightning and rain, and the van is going back and forth like this. And I wish I would have had the shot on here, but again, she saved the day by having that little point and shoot, right place at the right time. Shoot kids.
Wait, what?
I know some kids I'd like to shoot. It's a joke. It's a joke. This is our older son. When he was about 3 or 4 years old, he and I were going fishing at the neighbor's pond. I said, put your rod in your left hand and put the bait can in your right hand and just walk up here. And notice I put him down in this right-hand corner, okay? And this is what he looks like a few years later. He's quite an accomplished fly fisherman, and right now he happens to be hooked up on a steelhead in one of the rivers east of Cleveland. Here is son number 2. He was about 3 or 4 years old. That was a national award winner with the National Wildlife Federation. And I think the particular category was kids in the outdoors or something like that. But it's a nice shot because you got the little bib overalls going here. And if you shoot fishing photos, shoot the side of the fish. I see so many fishing photos where you see a belly, a white belly. Not cool, all right? You have to show the side of the fish and have the person looking at the fish. Don't have them grinning at the camera. That helps. A few years later, he grew up too. And then this is the next generation. This is our oldest grandson. He's now 9. At that time, he was like 3 or 4. This is his very first fishing trip. We told his mom and dad that we'd like to take Cade fishing. Can he spend the night shore? So she figures out, well, if he's going fishing, he obviously needs a fishing hat. And I decided, well, that's got to be in the photo. So I put Cade on my shoulders. I give Jan the camera. And I said, take the shot. She obviously knew enough to put me off to the side here. I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking out this way. And I want to say this. I've just shown you 2 pictures of our sons, a picture of my grandson, and there's a purpose for doing that. I'm proud of them, yes. But I probably have 40 to 50,000 photos in my computer at home. Guess which photos become the most precious as the years go on? It's these, all right? It's not the pretty pictures I just showed you of the animals, of plants, of mountains. Those are great. I'm glad I took them. These are the photos that become more precious as the years go on. Because basically what you've done is you've captured a little slice of life that will never be again, all right? And what is always, what kind of makes a point to me is you're listening to the news and somebody's house burns down. And what's the first thing they say? Oh, I lost all my photos, you know? All my photos are backed up on the cloud now, all right? And if you have a lot of photos, you might think about doing that yourself. But as you're out the next few days and the next few years, when you're doing your outdoor activities and you're taking these photos, take some great shots of everything you're doing, but turn the camera around and shoot your family, shoot your friends, because again, as the years go on, those are the ones that are going to mean the most to you. Shoot young critters. A friend of mine had a litter of puppies. Actually, his beagle had a litter of puppies. And he said they're about 6 to 8 weeks old now. He said, come on over and take some shots. So I did. Well, puppies being puppies, I got over there. There was probably a dozen of them. They're all over each other. They're running here and running there. I just wasn't getting anything decent. So I saw his hunting boots sitting there, and I grabbed a puppy and stuck him in the hunting boot. That puppy did not know what to do. He just stopped, just like this, for only about 3 or 4 seconds, but enough to get that shot right there. And that particular shot was published in a calendar a few years ago. Take a look at that one.
It's Thurston.
I've been trying to get a shot of a fawn for years. Finally got a call from a buddy in Mansfield, Ohio, right on Middle Belleville Road, just about a half mile from the Masonic Temple. He said, Chip, there's a fawn in my backyard. What do I do? I said, don't touch it. I'll touch it. So Jan and I get in the car. We drive up there. We probably spent an hour taking photos of this little guy. And it works for a couple reasons. Remember I talked about diagonals?
Yeah.
Notice this animal is lying on a diagonal. Notice the leaves on these plants are on the same diagonal. And guess where I focused?
Eyeball.
Focus on the eye. Okay, focus on the eye. And let me show you where this critter was laying. Right in the backyard. It's right here. All right. Now, doe white-tailed deer will usually have twin fawns, but they don't hide them in the same place. They might hide them a couple hundred yards apart. They might hide them a quarter mile apart. And biologists call this a survival strategy, meaning that if a predator finds this one and kills it, you probably won't find the other one. Okay, so for the first 2 weeks of life, they are hid by themselves, and then the mother will come about dark, and she'll pick the fawns up, and they go off with mom for the night, and then she'll hide them the next day. Well, we got ready to leave, and my buddy says, well, what do I do? I said, just leave it alone, don't touch it, mom will be back, keep the kids away from it. And sure enough, about an hour before dark, the doe showed up, everybody in the family got to see it, she collected the little one, and they were off. So there's a lot of wildlife in town if you know where to look and you have your cameras ready. And then finally, sometimes you just get lucky. All right, I'll admit it, sometimes you just get lucky. This shot was taken at Nalabar Farm, just right up the road here. They, every year, have something there at the farm in the spring called Spring Plowing Days, where the Ohio Draft Horse Association comes in, they bring their big draft horses, and they plow up the fields there. You can watch, you can participate, whatever you'd like to do. I happen to get in front of these two critters, and just at the right time, I go to take the photo. It looks like this one is telling this one a joke. You just get lucky sometimes. Take a look at that one. Got lucky on that one. I was out shooting deer photos that day. Yes, this happens to be in a metro park in Columbus, Blendon Woods. But I had almost walked past this deer, and I looked to my left, and here's this doe appearing at me. And this yellow, it's in the fall, this yellow is goldenrod. So I moved enough where I could just see her face. I put her down in this lower left-hand corner, focused on the eyes, shot that one. Kind of an ethereal type effect. And this has been on the cover of a couple magazines. Take a look at
That one's over there. I saw that on the note
Talk
card.
about getting lucky. I've been looking for a fox den to photograph for years and years, and 2 years ago I found 3 in the same year. One was right on State Route 546 as you go into Lexington. This one happened to be about a mile from my house. My buddy calls one night and said, Chip, did you know there's a fox den within a mile of your house and they're out right now? I said, no, thank you very much. Get in my truck, I drive around there, get there about an hour before dark, stop right on the road, and just shut the truck off, roll the window down, and these young foxes, they're probably about 3 or 4 months old at this point, they perform for half an hour. They were chasing each other around, and they'd get up on their back feet, and they'd paw like this, and then one would lay down, the other one would jump on him. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. Again, I probably took about 150 photos of these critters. This is the best one right there. All right? So, opportunity, but having the right equipment at the right time, and then knowing how to use it. Now, tell you what, let's take some questions at this point, and then I've got a few last photos to show you. But what do you want to know about? Did I put you all?